So welcome to my Wednesday live at lunchtime, and today's session we are going to look at using snap fasteners. And snap fasteners are great if you don't like doing buttons and buttonholes, and they're also great for kids wear and work wear, so think like kind of western shirts or even children's romper suits, which I believe is coming up tonight on the Great British Sewing Bee. Can't wait to see how they handle that. So I'm a big fan of snaps, and I'm also a big fan of using tools that work. So I'm going to show you how to use the Prim Vario Pliers to apply some jersey snaps, which are the easiest snaps to get your head around. So they're like an intro to snaps, if you like. And then we're also going to look at some colour snaps. So the way that you use these snaps is pretty much the same across all of them. You're going to end up with different die bits for different snaps. So this is not something that you have one tool that just does everything. So your Vario Pliers will apply them all, but you need all the little die bits, and I'll talk you through that in a little bit more detail when I show you the demo of each of the two types of snaps that we're going to do today. Jersey snaps are great for kids wear. They're really strong, they're really light, so they don't have a lot of depth to them, and they're my favourite for putting onto kids wear. I've put them onto a couple of shirt dresses when I just couldn't be bothered to set up the buttonholer, you know, and sew on buttons, so they're a nice, easy, no-sew fastening. And then there are all kinds of snaps that work on the same principle as those I'm going to show you today. So when you're looking at getting hold of snaps, you're going to find different brands, and with most things, brands, so remember how your Apple charger won't charge a Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy. If you're buying one brand of snaps, you need to buy the same brand of tool to apply them. And then you buy a tool like this. This is the Vario Plier. Comes in a couple of different colours. This is the latest colour, which is nice pink, and you then can slot in all different types of die bits. So I can use this to cut holes in fabric, I can use it to apply eyelets, and I can use it to apply snaps. So it's a multi-purpose tool, and once you buy this, then all you do is buy the consumable parts of the actual snap fasteners. Okay, so if you buy, for example, a brand of snaps like cam snaps and then a Vario plier, you will find that the cam snaps won't fit the die bits in the Vario pliers. So you're going to need to, you know, stick to a brand. I use Prim because they work, and I've used a lot of products and snap fasteners that I spent ages trying to get to work, and these kind of work. But whatever you use, you are going to have to use the same tool as the brand of snaps that you buy. Otherwise, you're just going to get yourself into a pickle, and they're probably not going to work. Okay, guys, I think the jersey rings, which I'm going to show you today, are a great kind of intro. Once you master them, and you can use them on t-shirts, on the neckline, romper suits. I've got them on a shirt dress. You can use them on all kinds of dressmaking, but they're the easiest to apply. So what I have here, guys, is two sets of Vario pliers. So I'm doing this just for speed in the demo. This set I have put with the die bits that go with the jersey rings. So these are jersey rings, and then this set I've got set up for the colour snaps. Okay, so these are all part of the colour snap range, and these die bits are interchangeable. So basically they just slot in and out like that. So the basic Vario plier comes with holes like this, and each die bit has got a little spoke, and then to interchange it, you pop it into here, and that's how you change between types of snaps. So if you take a little look, you can see that my two Vario pliers have got two different types of die bits. So these little inserts are called the die bits, and these are specific to the jersey rings, and they're specific by size. So make sure that you keep the right bits. You can always write on the side with a number if you're not sure. And then these ones are specific for these colour snaps. So I have got some colour snaps in here that have got nice little faces on. Now these are a different sized die bit, so I'd need to swap out this plate if I wanted to use these. So they're specific by type and size. In the case of the jersey rings, they are exactly the same. These two halves are the same. In the case of the colour snaps, the two die bits are separate, and in case of like anorak snaps, you sometimes have 4 die bits, so you've got 4 stages. So here's the basic principle of snap. So the jersey rings come with a ring, so that's like the cap, and you can see I've got several different colours here. And then for each of these, so I'm going to use these two, I'm going to have a spoke or a male side, so I've got a sticky outy bit, and then I have a female or receiving side. So that's a sort of insert there, okay? Now this particular one, the female half of this, now this particular one, it only fits in the die bit in one way. So if you've got them upside down, it doesn't fit in, okay? So essentially what happens is this one will sit with the fabric between the cap and the metal side, like so. So the fabric's in the middle, and then you use the Vario Pliers to squish that in place. And this half is going to be that way round, because we want the spoke facing out, and then that sits on top with the fabric in the middle, and the Vario Pliers squish them in place, okay? So you're always going to have at least 4 parts for a snap. So this is one half of the garment, that's the other half of the garment, okay? And you're going to have this sticky out bit and then a receiving innie bit. Okay? So this is the cap, and on the outside of the garment, that's what you want to see. But when I take this off, it's reversed on the underside of the garment. So this is the outside, and then this is the inside, okay? So on the inside, the cap sits on the wrong side of the garment, and on the upper side, the cap sits on the right side of the garment. So it's important to get that in your head. So I've got like a little pretend shirt front here for you guys to see. Okay, so the first step is I usually mark and apply the top side. So this is the side I'm going to see. So give yourself a little mark. And, you know, I'm just freestyling this, but measure them, put them in the right spot. And then you can go ahead and mark the underside. I often use the position of the top side to mark the underside in case I make it a bit squiffy. All right. So we've got the ring, and I need to place that into the die bit with the spokes face up. And see how it clips in. That's why, again, why I like the jersey rings, because they clip in and it means that they're much easier to use than some of the other snaps. And then we come to the opposite side. So I want the spoke or the male half to face outwards. So you place that spoke, see how there's a little hole? Okay, so there's a little hole in here to receive it. You place that spoke and push it down. And again, it just clicks into place. So I can kind of have a little party with my Vario Pliers, and those are all going to stay into place. So I'm then going to take the place that I'm going to apply it, and I've got the ring on top, because I want the ring to be on the outside of my garment, on this half of the garment. And then I'm going to line this up. So I like to sort of just look at it from the side and make sure I'm positioning over the center of that mark, and then you can check that it's all nicely aligned. I'm going to show you how I do this to really get a nice press. I use both my hands and I give it a good squeeze with both, and what that does is it puts more pressure through here, and it's less work for your hands than just trying to squeeze the end. So just squeezing the end can be a bit tricky, so give it a good squeeze with both hands at the top and the bottom of the handles. And when I release that, you can see that my ring, I almost got that centered, and then when I flip that over, I've got the male side applied here. So that's the male half. And so we've got a cap, and then we have a male side. Okay, so we take the cap, or the ring in this case, and pop that into place like so, like that, and then flip this over take the male side and push the spoke into the hole in the dye bit. Push that in place and it clips in place. Then I'm going to line this up over my mark. And again, using a two-handed grip, give that a good crimp, release. And now that ring has been applied with the spoke on the underside. Okay, so that's the first half. So I would usually do all of this side and then swap over and come and do the receiving side. So my little trick for this is that I like to do up the first one and then get this all lined up and use the position of the male spoke to mark this side. So you can give it a little press and you get a little imprint. I'll show you what I mean. So if I press that in, I've got a little imprint here and I can see where that needs to go. So then we're going to apply this side. Now remember, on this half of the garment, we want the ring on the wrong side of our garment. We don't want it on the outside. So that's just something to think about when you start applying these. So now we're going to take our ring, again, pop this into the dye bit, clicks into place, and then flip this over, and we're taking this one, and the side that needs to be outside is this smaller sort of inner ring. But there's something good about this in that if I place this the wrong way round, it doesn't clip into place, okay? It only clips into place when you have it the right way round. So my receiver is now the right way round to apply to the garment. So that's another reason why I think these jersey snaps are great when you've never used snaps before. So remember, we want the ring this time on the underside. So again, I'm just going to position the center, and I'm looking that my center of that receiver is over my mark. And then I do a double-handed grip, give it a good pinch, release that, and that is my second half applied. So you can just double check that that's all okay. See how they grip in there, and then in case you've slightly misaligned this, sometimes I might come and mark this at this point, so I might do them one by one. So that helps you if you're a little bit prone to misaligning. And just another little thing, if this was a shirt, there would be interfacing applied in here. So the interfacing will help stabilize it. If it's a light fabric, just apply it in a sort of small circle over the areas where you know the fastenings are going to be. Okay, so that just gives it a little bit more stability. So the ring side gets clipped in. It is a bit spiky on your fingers. And then the female side, the receiver side, again, you can see I've got that upside down, it's not clipping in. So get that in, it's clipped in, and again the ring side is going underneath the garment this time. Again, I'm just sort of lining up the center using a two-handed grip, giving that a good squeeze. And then that's aligned like so. There we go. Hopefully that makes a bit more sense if you've ever tried to use them and it doesn't feel quite so scary. So it's just thinking about having 4 parts applied in 2 halves. So the upper part of the garment and then the lower part of the garment. So we're now going to take a look at the colour snaps. So these are a really fun product, and again I'm using the Prim ones, and they come in all different ranges of colours. The one thing I will say with these is when you buy the colour snaps, you have to buy the dye bits separately. So yeah, with the colour snaps, you do need to make sure you've got the dye bit, because it doesn't come with the actual sort of consumables. This two-handed trick, so I'll show you here, instead of just pinching the end, which can feel like a lot of hard work, by using both my hands like this, I can get a lot more pressure, a lot more grip with a lot less pain in my wrists, and it's much easier to use. So a double-handed grip will really help you with these thicker fabrics. What I would say with the colour snaps is they are quite thick when they're finished. So if you've got a very fine fabric, maybe go for the jersey rings, because the colour ones are just sort of quite a thick depth, okay? Again, we've got 4 halves. We've got a cap, we've got a female receiver, we've got another cap, and then we've got a male or a spoked receiver. So here I've got a sample that I've already done. So that's the colour snap on top here. And then when you open that, can you see the depth of the plastic? So it works better on slightly thicker fabric. It creates a thicker fastening, but yeah, it's slightly thicker here. So definitely not for super lightweight fabrics. Don't put these on chiffon. And then give this a pull apart. So again, exactly the same as when we did the jersey rings. The cap is on top, on the outside of your garment, and the cap is on the wrong side of your garment for the under layer. So that's where sort of like where the buttons would be on a traditional opening. Okay. I'm going to put a little mark where I'm going to put the next few. And again, you take this mark off your pattern, and you can now actually buy little circles of interfacing just to support this colour snap, okay? Or just cut your own, or usually if it's a shirt, you've probably got some in your button stand here. I'm going to use this cap and then the male side. So unlike the jersey ring, I find it easier to take my cap and the spoke and push the spoke through my mark. Okay, I don't need to use the hole punch. It's very, very sharp, so it will go through. Then I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm going to lay my spoke side, spoke up on top. And this is because this one doesn't clip together, so I just use the Vario pliers to actually crimp it into place. So you've got the cap here, that goes underneath, that's sort of cap holder, and then very carefully, don't put too much pressure, just sort of spin this to the side and make sure you've really got this centered, because you can sort of squish these spokes out of alignment. Okay, and then again, using my two-handed trick, give that a really good press, okay? Because what we're doing is we're squashing that plastic spoke with this rubbery half of the die. So you need a little bit of, you know, squish in there, all right? So I'll show you that again. Got my cap, and then I've got the male half. So I take my cap, put that spoke right through the mark, the center of the mark, push it through all the fabric, then lay the male half on top, and again the cap plate goes underneath, and then I lay that on top, and I'm just checking that I'm totally centered, I'm not slightly skewed, and then we use our two-handed grip. So again, you can see that that has been squished down in the middle, okay, and it's nice and centered. Okay, so then we're going to come to the opposing side, and again, I like to get the first one done and then use my other ones to really mark out the position of the receiving side. I'm just giving myself a mark there, and again you can do these one by one if you're worried about getting them slightly skewed. Okay, so then we'll take that one off. This time we're going to be using a cap and then the receiving side, and remember that the cap is on the underneath, the wrong side of this half of the garment. So I'm taking my cap and I'm pushing that spoke from underneath right through the center, Okay, so you don't need to make a hole. It's nice and it's very, very sharp actually, this tip, so it will go through as long as you're not using super, super heavy fabric. So the spoke has come through like so, caps underneath. Then we place our receiving half on top, and again you can tell, you know, that doesn't look like the right side, does it? So it's that way round. Place the cap plate underneath. Just gently make sure that you're nice and centered, and then use your two-handed grip to really give that a good squish. Okay, so you can see that that's all squished down. Grab another cap, grab another receiver. So the spoke comes up from the wrong side through the center of your mark, like so. Place the receiver on top. The cap part of the Vario pliers goes underneath, so the cap plate. I'm just checking it's centered, and then I'm using a two-handed grip to really, really squish this in place. Okay, so that's the underside done, and then we can just snap these together. You've got the colour snaps, or you've got the jersey rings. The jersey rings also come in silver, and they come in multiple colours, so you can make them, you know, match your garment or just be nice and plain, or you can use the pearlised tops. But both of them have been applied with the Vario pliers, and you just need to make sure you put the right die bits in for the snaps that you are using. But hopefully you've enjoyed seeing a little intro to using snap fasteners, and let's hope that the bees making their kids' romper suits tonight are equally successful. See you next week, guys.